Hello, and thank you for joining us for this webinar brought to you by RingCentral and SINC USA. My name is Jason Senimore, the Chief Product Officer here at SINC USA, and I'm delighted and honored to be joined today by a panel of IT leaders for a very candid discussion with executives on the front lines on what it really takes to enable employees for remote work. Due to unforeseen circumstances, remote work has quickly gone from what some saw as a trend to a necessity. The speed of this shift inevitably placed both companies and employees in a very challenging position. During this discussion, we will be covering a range of sections, including challenges and solutions for rapidly enabling employees for remote work in the home office, addressing the new IT requirements for a distributed mobile workforce, empowering employees with effective combined communications and collaboration tools, balancing short-term and long-term work from home strategies, and keeping remote employees engaged and effective. As mentioned, I am joined by a stellar lineup of panelists, and joining me today we have Andy Green, the Vice President of Global Infrastructure and IT Operations at PRGX Global. Hello there, Andy.
Hello.
Andrea Markstrom, the CIO at Taft, Stettinius and Hollister. Hello there, Andrea.
Hi there.
We have David Easley, the Director of Architecture and Digital Transformation at SAIC. Hi, David.
Hello, everybody.
And last but by no means least, Stephen Zachok, the Associate Vice President of Enterprise Solutions and Engineering at RingCentral. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, good afternoon.
Well, thank you all very much for joining. And I want to really jump right in here. And for a start, just take things back by a couple of months. And I want to come to you, Steve, to really kind of give us a little bit of an opening line here. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic came on very rapidly and changed our way of working overnight. As an executive at an organization that actually provides software to enable remote work, can you start by telling us how prepared you were individually and as an organization to take this on in this kind of swift time frame?
Yeah, sure, Jason. Thanks for asking. Thank you for the panelists for joining me and everyone that's listening on the webinar. But just to reintroduce again, my name is Stephen Zajac. I lead a team of solutions engineers or pre-sales engineers all over the country and Canada. So all of them and myself as well are all used to traveling all the time to meet with customers and prospects on their communications needs. So me individually and for the team, it's been quite an adjustment to go from 80% travel to 0% travel and change how we interact with everybody. Fortunately, as you mentioned, Jason, as a communications company, hey, we deliver those tools that everyone needs to be successful to work at home. So a complete suite of message, video, and phone applications, all in fact in the same application. So a work from home team can just enable this, get going right away and get on their way. So from a RingCentral perspective, we've been using these for many years. It's just the shift from instead of using it most of the time, now we're using it all of the time. And we've been able to take all of those folks that are around the country or around the world that were in our offices, they're at home working just as productively as before. So our transition has been a bit easier because of those tools that we have in place.
Fantastic, thank you. And Andrea, coming to you here. So tell us a little bit about your organization. Did you guys have a remote workforce strategy in place already? How did COVID-19 potentially change that? Or did you have to go through a bit of a knee-jerk situation as well?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So just a brief background, January 1st, Taft and Briggs & Morgan combined. So we were in the midst of a combination, bringing two companies together, and needed to quickly pivot from integrating these two companies, as you can imagine what it takes behind the scenes to integrate that together, to quickly pivot to ensure the entire firm could work from home. And with that, quickly prepared a task force to focus on what we hear, the people, process, and technology, but just to make sure that both firms, because we weren't integrated behind the scenes as of yet, just a month into that integration, but to ensure that both firms, from a technology standpoint, from the people standpoint, that we were able able to work from home. And one of the most important things was to make sure that our staff were safe, their families were safe. And with that, we need to understand what technology we had available to work from home, what did they have at home, and what they still needed. So quickly assembled the process around that to make sure everybody would be able to successfully work from home.
Great, thank you. Andy, talk to me a little bit about you guys over at PRGX. I mean, assuming you went through a kind of similar situation where obviously you had a little bit of a remote strategy in place, you know, that obviously escalated very, very quickly. Can I ask though, what was your biggest roadblock when you started to approach this at the organization, and ultimately, how did you guys overcome it?
Sure. So our business is basically auditing, right? And auditing of large data sets. So the majority of our 1,700 employees went to the office every day and worked on a desktop, right? They didn't even have laptops. So, you know, when we started thinking about what does this mean in terms of having 1,700 people without the ability to work remotely, you know, to have to go to an office at home, we pretty quickly went and sourced as many laptops as we possibly could, got those ready. You know, in most cases, we have a fairly large presence in India as well. There's also the connectivity barriers in India, right? Some of those locations are less desirable and less connected than others. And as a result, we have to figure out ways to not only get them effective compute devices, but also effective communication devices. And so, you know, we put a strategy together around using your personal cell phone as a hotspot and providing hotspots for others. And really it was an equipment and a connectivity issue that were really essential for us to solve in order to be successful.
Fantastic. Quick follow-up question to that, Andy, whilst I've got you. I mean, how long did that procedure take to kind of get it fully operational and functional?
So we actually mobilized the entire 1,700 people in 10 days.
Wow. Okay. Brilliant. David, coming to you. Rather than focus on kind of how much you guys were prepared and et cetera, I'd actually kind of just like to get your perspective as an executive in this space. What have been some of the surprises, I suppose, both positives and negatives, that you've seen from the sudden and drastic shift to almost 100% work from home for everyone?
Well, that's a good question. Again, Dave Easley for SAIC, and I'm glad I'm on this panel and listen to everybody. We all kind of have the same kind of processes that we've gone through in the procedure, so it's all lessons learned. So in our area, I mean, our CIO and our executive committee was really looking at how we're going to have our culture for the future. And we already had that in place and looking at it. Then the virus hit. So from an IT perspective, we already had our organization, our people in our organization really working remote and understood those processes. But one of our key things is we are a strong IT company, but we do a lot of things for a lot of the government contracts, and some of the government contracts still had to be in place, and some people could not work remote. So what are the things we had to look at and lessons learned from that by trying to be more of have a good virtual infrastructure engineering, a good application development to help our customers have good, strong mobility capabilities. We had to make sure some of those people still had that stuff in place. So some of the lessons learned I can say is I think we had mobility capabilities, all our other cloud capabilities we needed to help our employees were in place. The big thing we can say lesson learned was, and I think we'll talk about it later, is a lot of people that do not work home, they had to deal with being home all the time. And what are the things we had to do for work going in that? I think we've had people, I'll say lessons learned is that we had to start making our teams more communicative. And what I mean by that, our leadership gave out a book called Death by Meetings, that everybody start working a lot of meetings more often. So what we start doing is, hey, get with your teams early in the morning and just have a 15-minute meeting to get them working. I think everybody was used to seeing everybody, so they just start getting on everybody's calendar. And then you realize your whole day was at meetings. After 7 o'clock, you started working. So we had to kind of change that approach and say, hey, have your meetings, have like a 15-minute kickoff meeting and start getting our activities. And that's kind of the things we saw from a high level perspective.
Gotcha. Yes, and we'll definitely dive into things like communication and productivity and how to ensure that you keep your employees engaged and on track and moving forward as we get through the conversation. So thank you very much for that. Steve, coming full circle back around to yourself here, looking at some of the the planning and success strategies that people have put in place. Even prior to all of this, many organizations had invested in separate communication tools for calls and meetings and chat services, et cetera, et cetera. Does juggling, the perspective of somebody who works for an organization, again, who offers these services, does juggling and switching between separate tools create additional productivity issues for your remote workers and agents or the IT department?
No, that's a great question. I'm definitely interested in our other panelists as well after I give my answer from a company that delivers a unified solution. But we see both sides here at RingCentral in a sense of we have customers that absolutely take advantage of one of those pieces and two pieces or even all three of those in that integrated solution. But what we really see about the value of that integrated solution is an ability for our folks, whether we're in an office or we're in this unique permanent work from home scenario, is, hey, avoiding the need to juggle from app to app to app to get their work done, right? If you're chatting with someone and you can one click to make a phone call, you have all of that context during the conversation. So you're able to keep the flow going and keep your speed and your productivity going without having to say, oh, well, I shift from here to here to here just to get that communication going throughout the day. The other part I would touch on with that, just from an integrated solution to think about at least, is the training aspect, right? A lot of your folks that have gone to work from home aren't necessarily used to it. They may have used some of these tools for a part of their day, but now they're using them for 110% of their day. And looking at one integrated solution gives you the ability to simplify your training, as well as, for an example with RingCentral, gives you complete adoption analytics around, oh, well, you've just sent 3,000 people home. You've given them a collaboration tool to message with. How many of them really took advantage of that? You have that in an integrated solution with analytics like from us. So the decision's difficult. Every company makes their own choice around best of breed versus integrated, but we really do feel strongly about the potential of an integrated solution.
Great. And that's actually a perfect opportunity to jump over to Andy here and focusing on that kind of training topic, right? Because Andy, you haven't gone through a situation where you had to literally get everyone working from home and they weren't used to it. Adoption and training obviously are critical when you're trying to switch to remote work, and almost overnight in your case. How did you build a training program? And I suppose what role has things like deep analytics played in helping you design the work from home strategy for the entire workforce?
Well, for us, we have 33 offices around the world, and we sort of created a task force to manage the communications in the training and really to set the security controls in place for what it means for these people that have never worked from home. And, the overall adoption and training went very well. We had, I would say, a 50% increase in the number of service and help desk requests the first 2 weeks of everybody going remote, and then it sort of settled down and it was business as usual. From a personal perspective, I'm used to working from home. I did it in a previous job, and I can do it here, but I'm always alone at home. I don't have my 3 kids, my wife, and my dog, necessarily at my side. As kind of a funny story, my 4-year-old son has been in every webinar that I've been on for the last 2 months, right? He just comes in, hey, Dad, what's going on? Sits in my lap, and, it becomes part of our new normal for meetings, even to the extent that now when he's not here, people start to ask, hey, where's Charlie, right? So it's a cultural thing, it's a technical thing, and it's It's a personal challenge to sort of figure out how do you separate these things. And you can't train how to separate those things, right? You just have to learn to adapt to those.
Yes, for sure. I, for one, have the dogs who seem to interrupt every important phone call I'm ever on. Loud barking. And this is actually a lovely segue again. And I'm going to come to you, Andrea, on this particular one. Andy's spoken about, and go back to David as well, productivity, right? And Andy's now kind of like highlighted a key component there, where you've got all these external forces playing a role in your focus for the day and how you get stuff done. So how can organizations ensure that their employees and teams can effectively communicate, collaborate, and maintain productive when they're away from HQ? And I mean, how do you keep them engaged and productive on your side?
Yeah, I love what Andy described regarding having his son on his webinars. And I think that's the great thing. There's a silver lining in every crisis, right? And the part here is we get an opportunity to really get to know people on a whole different level. And be it if, their children are joining, pets, it's an opportunity to really take that, what could have been team building in an HQ setting, and expanding that to an even deeper level of team building. And in terms of just what we've done from a collaboration standpoint, making sure that not only productivity, but people are engaged, is first focusing on their personal well-being. That's super important. It's a different landscape for people to work out of their homes on a daily basis and not coming into work every day. And we need to recognize that and understand what they need. And as part of that, just get, start the first 5-10 minutes of every meeting talking about, what's happening at home. Is there anything that you want to share? And just ask them how they're doing. I think doing that, at least what we've found, is that that engagement level increases because people feel like they're included in that discussion. At Taft, we have everyday stand-up meetings just within the IT organization. And then beyond with our executive team, we also have everyday task force meetings, just a quick touch base, touch point. Two, in terms of reaching out to our clients, we've got 1,500 people around the country, and over 600 attorneys that serve clients, reaching out to our attorneys on a regular basis to make sure the services that they've always provided to our clients are there, and they're able to deliver those services without any hiccups. So that constant collaboration and getting people to meet on a regular basis, daily basis, is very key, as well as ongoing leadership, delivery discussions about just overall how the firm is doing as a whole, and how we continue to bring on new business, because that's an important aspect of this as well. New business is coming in every day. So how can we make sure we can deliver service and bring on that new business as we do working in the office?
Lovely. And David, I could see you nodding along to a lot of Andrea's comments there. Obviously, you brought up this subject of productivity earlier. I mean, distributed workforces, they've got unique collaboration challenges, right? What are some of the strategies that you guys have employed to get everyone working?
Well, I don't want to repeat it. And I hate to say it. Listen to everybody on this call. We must work for the same company because we all doing the same thing. So that's one good thing. I'm listening to everybody and I'm smiling. So I don't want to repeat what everybody's saying. So I'm kind of adding a little bit more and kind of changing the subject a little bit. I think what everybody just said, we're all going through the same thing, same process. And I think we're all telling the same thing. But one thing I can add to it is, and it's not changing the question just a little, but in the role I have, we doing the same things. We have, new projects, new business coming in, new customers, new technical capabilities. But the role reporting to the CEO of creating all these new cloud disciplines, new structures, culture changes. One thing we brought up to everybody is, wow, we're trying to hire folks. How do you do all this stuff, interview, collaborate over the phone? So I'm interviewing people like crazy, and I'm doing for those collaboration tools we just talked about, But sitting back, trying to figure these meetings we're having like now and trying to look at someone, bring people into the organization, but you're just meeting them over the phone. How do you make those decisions? And now and what I've done is what she just described, all those things, but take it to another level of, hey, we're interviewing people. What are the key steps? Okay, let's do um, team meetings of having a panel to look at these individuals. And now we're interviewing folks and people are talking about in your office, so that person has a plan. Rather than looking at the person interviewing, they're seeing what's behind the interview and seeing how they are. And honestly, we're collaborating with people that when they come to the interview, they just wear a t-shirt with a baseball cap because they've been home for so long and don't realize they're interviewing. And I'm expecting a suit and tie, and they're coming in with different ways. So everything you said is great. I realized that in this new world, I think a lot of people are comfortable at home, and when they're trying to work with us or vendors or trying to get roles and jobs, I think they've been home for so long, they forget when they're presenting to a customer or they're doing certain things, they realize they're just going into the office with their workout clothes and realize they're meeting someone for the first time, and you look at them and say first impressions reality. So I just want to add that to it. I'm hiring a lot of people, and I've met some key great people, but they've walked in with a t-shirt on, and the kids walk by, I have no problem, but I'm looking at them going, well, you're trying to get a job and you're wearing a t-shirt and haven't shaved. What comes out's great, but I have to make a decision with my team on someone, which I hope you don't take this wrong. It's just, how do you make that decision of looking someone in these new collaboration, working remote, and make strong decisions of bringing someone on your team that you're just meeting remotely on the phone, and have to make a big key decision? That person's going to be on my team based on what you see on the camera. And normally you have those sit down meetings with them, shake their hand, and you can't do it. So that's a struggle I've been working with my teams. And I'm sorry, I kind of moved it a little bit.
No, I think you raise a really good point though for folks watching this as well, right? Because they come from all various roles and titles within organizations, and this may be the new normal.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that all of a sudden professionalism goes out the window. If you were going
Right.
to the office to interview, right, you've got to look the part.
Right.
The same thing goes.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I'm sure we'd all love to be wearing hoodies and sweatpants on this webinar today, but we're not, right? So we've got to take those into consideration. So
Right.
thank you for that. So we looked at some of the reactions to what happened and the strategies in place. And I want to move forward now, obviously, to IT concerns. It's an important part of this. And Andrea, I'm going to come to you as the CIO on the session here. Candidly, in your opinion, has the role of IT now changed because of current events? And if so, how?
I do think it has. And I mean, we've all been great partners with the various aspects of our business, and work closely with our business partners. But I think even more than now, we have an opportunity to be creative, to be innovative, to provide not only the nuts and bolts behind the scenes and the infrastructure, which is just table stakes, the IT side of the house, but how can we be bringing solutions to drive efficiencies, to bring products faster to market, to bring our service delivery to our clients even faster. And with that is consuming all of this information and culling it down to a story that's important to our users internally. So as an example, we've created some interesting avenues for our attorneys to deliver new and different services for our clients. And that's by delivering services via webinar that they've never done before, or taking an existing process and providing some automation and streamlining that so the service is even faster. So it's our opportunity to be creative and to showcase the talent that we have internally, even more than we ever have before.
Most definitely. Stephen, do you consider shadow IT being an issue for companies in this work from home environment?
Well, I'm not sure it's any much more a challenge than it was even when we were in the offices, right? It seems that all sorts of folks on, whether it's my team or other companies we talk with, right? They're gonna find their tools. They're gonna find the thing that makes it easiest for them to work in any of the different collaboration environments. And I think our challenge as IT leaders is to look at some of those scenarios, look at things that are mobile first, look at things that are similar to consumer experiences in that they want to use what's easiest for them, right? But in shadow IT is as simple as, hey, who's using SMS texting versus using a messaging platform, or who's got 4 different tools, whether it be RingCentral or another competitor or otherwise. There's so many tools out there. I think our challenges with that shadow IT is to evaluate them with a critical eye and find the ones that really match the workflows needed to be successful. And then you give them applications that work as well as their consumer applications, and you get happy people across the board. So to wrap on the question, I don't think it's made it any more prevalent than it already was. I think the challenge remains the same to find the right mix of applications.
Great. And Andy, obviously there's been a lot of information going around about heightened attacks, cybersecurity attacks, a lot of phishing attacks, et cetera, et cetera. How big of a concern is security when everyone's working from home for you?
Well, before I begin, I'd like to tell David that before this meeting, I actually had my T-shirt on, had to go change. I'm going to be on camera. But yeah, it's a big concern, right? And we've heightened our phishing campaigns, right? We do test phishing campaigns and that kind of security enlightenment. And we're concerned about it, right? I said that we mobilized all 1,700 of our employees. Most of them have now a PRGX owned and managed device, but some of them didn't need a PRGX owned and managed device and could access what they needed either strictly through VPN or other web-enabled tools. So when you start now adding a personal device into your corporate network, that becomes an even bigger concern, right? So it's top priority, and we absolutely are doing our best to sort of contain the borders.
Thank you very much. And David, coming to you again here, we're talking to Andy, 1,700 people on-prem, obviously now very much embedded into utilizing cloud technologies. I mean, does the current climate now make cloud communications even more critical for organizations?
Yes, it does, but it's funny. In my role, I mean, I'm my role is to deploy cloud transformation, digital transformations, create a CCOE, all these capabilities, and then a virus hit. So the things that we're having, which is very interesting, is my users, rather than having, we're doing a great job, but now there's new different collaboration capability tools that weren't in my roadmap at this time. So people are wanting applications much quicker and faster, and our plan is, going through our matrix, if it can go on the cloud or go to a SaaS tool, it can go on a SaaS tool. So in our area, it's not that bad. It's just that I think we're getting more projects more aggressively. Customers are looking for more needs. Again, if we're in the office, things will be probably much leaner. Now I'm getting, for example, looking at collaboration tools. It could be, RingCentral, Zoom, other areas. But then now people are saying we're looking at safe, agile projects and want some type of whiteboarding. And like you just said, how do you look at retiring applications, rehosting, replatforming? Each business line wants different application tools that, you're trying to figure out how to, collaborate and have those right appropriate tools. So from a cloud perspective, it's just, to me, it's been more aggressive and trying to come with those foundational elements of, again, removing O365 and CRM and other projects, getting the foundational elements in place, and everybody's working remote, and the cruise ship doesn't stop. So I hope I answer your question the best way.
Definitely. No.
Yeah.
Very, very well said.
Mm.
All right, guys. Well, as we start wrapping up this conversation, I want to give the folks watching the ability to kind of think about, okay, well, what comes next, right? We looked at, again, how we reacted, the strategies, and now the concerns. Now, obviously, a time will come when this all ends, and people start going back to what was normality. But this will change the opinion of working from home for a lot of people. You know, we've had some people talking about how some offices are going to disappear forever. We've had, I think it was Twitter saying that we all have work from home forever now. So Andrea, I'm keen to come to you first, and then I'm going to come to you, Andy, with the same question as well, because I see different perspectives here. But Andrea, you were starting the process of kind of making this a reality for your organization. So what are you now doing to deepen your remote work strategy long term once we kind of get through all of this?
For us, it is a cultural change. Remote working, more on a full-time basis, because we're used to coming into the office. We are a very in-office type of culture, and we're talking about that now. That how will that change? And we're experimenting right now with a phased approach in terms of just starting that re-entry back into some of our offices, continuing with remote work for people who want to continue to do that. And it's all about people feeling comfortable, people feeling safe, and also providing the platform so we can continue to provide great service for our clients. We need to make sure, be it onboarding new employees, bringing on new matters, all the way through to the end to billing, processing, that you can do that in the office or working from home. So we're examining all of that to make sure we can provide all of that when we have people back in the office and still people continuing from home. So it's really understanding what that hybrid culture looks like for us moving forward.
Great. Andy, 1,700 people, they all going to remain from home from this moment on? What are you guys doing to kind of incorporate this into the long term?
Yeah, I don't think, even if we were to say everybody needs to go back to the office, the CDC, different organizations, right, have basically said you've got to maintain the separation, you've got to maintain personal safety. And, if we looked at some of our offices where the square footage doesn't allow all of those people to fit back in a single facility anymore, right? So some way we're going to have to figure out those days or weeks or how we're going to structure our alternative office programs in order to make sure that we stay in the guidelines of the CDC and are able to maintain our ability to do our work. We've been very successful with it, and we don't necessarily have an immediate rush to go back to the office. We're going to be sure that our plan is very well laid out, that we keep our employees safe first and foremost, and then maintain the ongoing continuity of our business, sort of second. I think we won't know anything for a few more weeks as to what even that plan will be.
Can I add to that too? You mind?
Of course.
That is great. One thing our CEO and even my CEO that I really respect him highly on, he says it indirectly. I mean, everybody's looking at going back in the office, what's the plan? But we're a family company. He's a family man. And he's like, hey, since we're the IT for our organization, he doesn't want anybody in the organization sick. I don't want the same thing for my organization. So we're like, if you can work from home, work from home. If you need to go in the office, go to the office. But my first option is, work from home until we feel it's better. But talking to a lot of my other mentors and other people I talk to, different organizations, I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing. People are looking at this may go to the end of the year, first quarter next year. And I'm talking to one of my good friends, their organization's looking at their facility estates, and now realizing they have a 4-story building, the lease is about to come back up. They're getting rid of the lease and just going to keep the first floor because everybody's doing fine. So I'm concerned, like, wow, all these places around the world, there's going to be a lot of facilities leasing going to be redone, because I think from IT perspective, people are doing better working from home in a way. And so you have all this space that not even needed. And we kind of proved it out for the past 8 weeks. You probably don't need a lot. I mean, from the organization I'm in, other people may have that, but if you're in a IT remote virtual type of company, you have these buildings that, that you've proven that you can do it from home. I think I'm probably going to be looking at the releases moving forward in the next year or so. I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing, but that's kind of what I'm seeing out there.
Yeah,
we're reviewing our building leases as well.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, and in fact, some of our spaces we have the huddle spaces or the team spaces,
right?
And there was a big shift to go to that, and we need to reevaluate all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, guys. I'm going to come to Stephen to round things off and kind of really kind of put a bow on this here. And Stephen, as somebody who speaks with IT leaders all the time, and taking the current climate out of the equation, folks who are just embarking on a remote work strategy, people who are in the midst of deploying a remote work strategy, people who have gone through deployment and are now maintaining that. What are the key pieces of advice you give to any IT leader, executive on the main things they need to consider at whatever stage they may be throughout this journey?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing that we've seen that this move to the cloud communications, different collaboration tools, like David said, right? There's lots of different tools that are out there that his team is considering, and we've been seeing this move to the cloud, of course, for a number of years. It's not just like March 15th, everybody decided we all needed to go to the cloud, right? We were already moving in that direction. But in terms of advice going forward, I think you need to take a full look across your organization and take that critical eye at all the different companies that can assist you with working from home, especially in an environment where half the folks will be home, half the folks might be in the office. But look for vendors that provide an open platform. This will allow you to take all of those applications and have them easily integrate with your different workflows. I'll steal from David's comment a few minutes ago about whiteboarding tools, for instance. And when you get into using all these collaboration tools, that open platform becomes critically important, so you can tie each of these together and give all of your employees and your team members the best possible solution, regardless of how many tools you might have, right? I could always advise, hey, go to an integrated solution. But even if you don't, that looking for an open platform on each of those tools you're evaluating is critically important to be successful as an IT organization.
Brilliant. Very well said. Well, thank you very much, panelists. That was a extremely insightful and in-depth conversation covering a range of areas. And yes, very much appreciate all of your thought leadership today. For those watching and in attendance, thank you very much for joining us. We hope you found the discussion valuable. Obviously, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to the folks over at RingCentral or find any of our panelists on LinkedIn and shoot them a note. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in consuming further content, there are plenty of other articles around this on the RingCentral website, so please feel free to check those out. Once again, thank you all to our panelists. Thank you all for the attendees. Until the next SINC and RingCentral webinar, we'll see you then.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.